Ted 2 is directed by Seth MacFarlane and stars Mark Wahlberg, Amanda Seyfried, and Seth MacFarlane as Ted the bear. As we learned in the first film, that little bear was wished to life by Mark Wahlberg as a child, and now he's married, but he's still a stoner who just hangs around with Mark Wahlberg all day. The plot behind this movie is that people are now challenging Ted's right to be a person, to have a job, to be married, to have human rights and civil rights, and so he has to go to court to try to prove that he is actually a person despite being property officially labeled by the government. And Amanda Seyfried plays their lawyer who's trying to help them prove this, so they set out on an adventure involving tons of weed and farts, and it's Ted 2. Now, I actually enjoyed the first Ted. I thought it was a very fresh movie. There wasn't really anything like it I had ever seen. A guy who's buddies with a talking bear who likes to curse a lot. I mean, I had never seen anything like that before. And Mark Wahlberg really surprised me in that movie. And once again, he's really great here. Him and Seth MacFarlane have great chemistry. You really believe their over-the-top relationship. You totally believe everything that comes out of their mouths. And despite the fact that Seth MacFarlane is basically doing the Peter Griffin voice as a bear, he still works really well as the Ted character. That being said, I didn't find this movie nearly as funny as the first one. It is definitely better than MacFarlane's last film, A Million Ways to Die in the West, which was just really bad. This is definitely better than that movie. It's definitely funnier. It has more jokes. There's a lot of jokes that hit. However, similar to the first film, the third act gets really bloated with this gigantic action scene. It gets all serious, just like in the first Ted, and just like the first one, it starts to get really dragged out. In fact, there's even a part where Mark Wahlberg looks around and is like, hey, man, I'm having deja vu here. I like the idea of the set piece they construct at the end in this movie. There just wasn't really that much to it. It was just a lot of ball hits and slapstick stuff that could have been a lot more entertaining than it was. And that unnecessarily serious backstory just weighed the movie down, because you go to these comedies, you just want to laugh. But what worked for me about Ted 2 was the interesting camaraderie that forms between Wahlberg, Seyfried, and Ted. These guys all together actually formed a pretty cool team, and I liked seeing them work together. There is definitely an over-reliance on weed jokes. I feel like since Pineapple Express, there really aren't any more weed jokes that can be made that haven't been made already. And there's a huge Jurassic Park joke in this movie. It didn't really work for me because they end up directly quoting lines from Jurassic Park. They put them into Ted 2, and they just don't fit in. They don't make any sense. It just comes off as we're repeating Jurassic Park lines for no reason. I don't want to sound too overly negative here, because for the most part, I found Ted to be a pretty funny movie. I think if you enjoyed the first film, you'll probably have a good time with Ted 2, but there isn't really anything hilariously gut-busting amazing about this one. There were maybe 2 parts where I was really laughing really hard. The first Ted had me laughing considerably harder and more consistently. In Ted 2, it's a lot of the same with some good humor thrown in and some interesting things to say about human and civil rights in a Seth MacFarlane movie, which is a weird thing to say, I guess. Overall, though, I think if you enjoyed the first Ted, you're still going to find things to like about this one. Wahlberg was good. Seth MacFarlane as Ted was good. Amanda Seyfried was good. There just wasn't really that much meat to this movie. It sort of felt like a string of interesting little moments, sort of like Family Guy, and it didn't really pay off as much in the end as the first film did. I'm going to give Ted 2 a C+. So if you've seen Ted 2, I'd like to know your thoughts on it, or Seth MacFarlane humor in general, because I know he's very divisive, he's very polarizing. Some people hate him, some people love him. I personally think sometimes he can be really funny, but sometimes not so much, and Ted 2 is sort of a mixed bag of both. Guys, thank you so much, as always, for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.